Burst damage. We all know it, and we all play at least one hero that has it. But if you played enough Overwatch, you can probably tell that not all burst damage is created equally. Some can kill you out of nowhere in a matter of milliseconds, while some can't. The design and implementation of burst damage can vary a lot. So, what a better way to rank the design of burst damage in the game than in a tier list? But before we get into it, it's important we narrow down the definition of burst damage in order to better sort what should or should not be considered burst. So here is the definition I came up with. For the sake of this video, burst damage is a single instance of 40 or more damage. So, soldiers' helix rockets count as burst damage, but not his heavy pulse rifle. Pellet weapons count as burst damage as long as it passes the 40 damage requirement previously mentioned. So Hazard's and Junkrat's shotguns count, but not the D.Va's fusion cannons or Tracer's pulse pistols, since they fall below the damage threshold. Damage over time abilities are excluded, with the exception of one. Perks are included, as long as they provide additional burst damage at or above the 40 damage threshold. And finally, ultimates were originally considered in the tier list itself if they fulfilled the criteria, but for time reasons and also because none of them are truly problematic, I decided to scrap them. Now that we defined what burst damage is, we gotta now define what makes the implementation of burst damage good or bad. These criteria aren't hard rules per se, but are more general guidelines that can vary depending on the hero's kit, and it's also my opinion. So firstly, burst damage should be well telegraphed, so if a big scary amount of damage comes to you, the game should clearly communicate, hey, this amount of damage is a lot and it's terrifying, watch out. Secondly, it should have a low fire rate or a reasonable cast time. Thirdly, if necessary, make the ability be useful for more than just its damage. Additionally, burst damage should ideally come from an ability with a reasonable cooldown, especially if it's on the higher end of burst damage. However, if burst damage does come from a primary or a secondary fire, it does not immediately disqualify it as unhealthy, but should follow additional specific guidelines. Firstly, they must have a low amount of ammo to a point where ammo management is necessary, with a longer reload as a possible addition or alternative. For hit scan specifically, the higher the burst damage, the harsher the damage falloff should be. And for projectile weapons, they need to find a sweet spot between projectile speed and projectile size, as well as potentially add a range limit before the projectile explodes as a way to counteract the lack of damage falloff. Now that we got all of that out of the way, time for the tier list itself. But again, one last time before I start, one small caveat. Even though I ignore damage over time here, there are two abilities or two instances of damage which I will consider burst damage despite them technically not being considered, and that being our very first one, which is, sorry for the terrible images by the way, I can make them here, I'll just make them the full, no cropping here, but it won't be very big. Basically, Ana's damage. Ana's damage is basically damage over time by definition, because it's not, boom, you lose 75 HP. The damage is actually distributed among 0.59 seconds. However, 0.59 seconds, it's such a low amount of time that I will consider it burst damage. So, as I said, it comes from a primary and secondary fire. That means I need to return to my previous categories of what happens if it's a primary or secondary. Does it have high ammo requirement, like very low amount of ammo where you need to manage your ammo? Not really. She has 15 ammo, which is a lot. Does she have range limitations? Also not really, because she has no falloff. She does the full 75 damage or full 75 healing on any range, obviously. So it basically no penalty on that. And it also comes with the extra feature of having a relatively large projectile size for both the enemy and allies. However, as you probably heard me just say, it also affects allies. And with Ana, even though yes, her ammo is very forgiving at the moment, she does need to manage between healing her allies or doing damage. And it's not that simple, obviously. Like, you can't just, do only damage most of the time, which does limit by itself the amount of damage you do. And even though, yes, the projectile size is kind of forgiving and stuff like that, it is if you don't scope, it is a projectile. It's a very fast projectile, like 125 meters per second. It's insanely fast, but it's projectile nonetheless. And when you're in hit scan form or in your scoped, you're slowed down. And the way Ana's kit is overall is like punishing. You know, you're very vulnerable when you're scoped in, if there are divers in the team, etc. So with all that context, I would actually put Ana here in somewhat fair. Needs some tuning to though, because the only thing I would actually not justify here is the ammo. Yes, she does need to kind of manage between damaging and healing, which, by the way, if you're only heal botting on Ana, don't. You're missing out on a lot of potential with just doing that. But I still think the ammo amount overall is still pretty forgiving overall. So yeah. So anti-nade, biotic grenade. Biotic grenade by definition does do burst damage. It also does burst healing, so 75 damage, 75 healing. However, that's not really why you're using anti like a good 70% of the time. So the main problem with the anti is actually like the anti-healing itself. Like not or the anti-healing, and maybe you can argue the healing amplification, but that's another debate. It also is an ability on a very long cooldown of 14 seconds. So, but excluding the entire anti-healing debate, excluding that, by pure definition of talking about the burst damage, and you can also a little bit burst healing, I would actually put Nade in fair. I don't think that Nade is overall a fair ability, because full anti, etc. But at least in that specific part of her kit, it's more or less okay. Maybe you can put her here. You can argue that 75 damage is too much. I know Spylo, for example, thinks it might be a little too high, especially because, you know, higher cooldown. He said maybe reduce the damage and healing, but reduce the cooldown. But that's, again, something else. Now, this is the Biotic Bounce major perk, which they made a major recently. It used to be a minor perk that started with 50, then nerfed to 25, and now they made it a major perk and made it 60. I will say that it is the major perk, first of all, so you're only going to get it like in the middle-ish part of the game, or if it's overtime, you're going to get it immediately. It does reset anti. However, as I said before, it is on an ability. So it kind of already makes it, by definition, slightly more fair than this. But the extra damage can definitely mess up a lot of breakpoints. So, by that definition, due to that, I'm gonna put it also here, but slightly higher than her gun. So, now we're into Ana's major perk, Headhunter, which allows her to headshot. I'm actually slightly on the fence with this perk. Even it messes up a lot of how you would normally play Ana. Like, I play a lot of Ana, so I'm not an Ana main, or I'm a Queen player. But when I play support, I play Brig or Ana, so I have a lot of experience. It does mess up a lot of how you would normally use your gun. However, it's only a 1.5x multiplier, and it's also just, you know, relatively difficult to land, surprisingly. So, because of that, and also because Biotic Bounce is actually kind of better most of the time, I would put it here in fair. Again, it's all caveats and opinions here. You have every right to disagree with me here, but this is where I would personally put it, at least in comparison with the rest of the heroes here. Ashe. This is Ashe's gun. This is where I'm gonna be a little, let's say, not very popular with the opinion here. I think even though Ashe's implementation is probably fairer than like almost every other sniper in the game, I would still not place it very highly. Like probably here. Honestly, this part is a little bit like a little bit bad because it's not. Sometimes you just can't really change something here. So with Ashe, it's kind of the same as well. It's 75 damage burst. It is, as I said, it is a secondary fire, which is what I personally don't like. Don't like that it's a thing. And the range is pretty forgiving. It's a very relatively long ranged sniper here. It's 30 to 50, which is, yeah, as you expect, a sniper weapon. Like, it's supposed to be that way, obviously. However, on the other hand, it has a relatively low ammo count of 12, and the reload time is pretty long. So, you could make an argument about it being here, but the fact that it's a very long, as I said, because it's a very long weapon, like very long range weapon, and you know, not really much of a downside of using it. Like, yes, you are slowed down when like scoping in, 25% slow, with also pretty large projectile size. But yeah, by the way, this video is completely unscripted, so I'm sorry if my reasonings are sometimes bad. Not because I don't think about what I say, it's because when it comes to the moment of saying that, I just can't really think about it at the moment. You can maybe argue about like maybe reducing the ammo slightly further to make it maybe fair, but the reload time is already very long, so I don't think it can change much. It's just more of a fundamental sniper thing, which honestly, hot take, I don't think sniper is that good of a game design, but I know people will hate me for that. Anyway, Coach Gun is, you don't do Coach Gun for the damage, so I think including it on the list is already a little questionable, but by definition, by my definition at least, it does fall under burst damage, so I have to include it. And yeah. Dynamite I would have also normally not included on the list by, again, it has 50 burst. It has 50 burst damage on explosions, but it's okay. You can argue maybe the cooldown is too short, but I think it's okay. Bap's secondary fire. Let's look at it's a primary, not secondary. Primary fire, sorry. It's a primary fire, so is it range limited? Not really. 25 to 45 is pretty forgiving. 36 ammo. It's not as bad as it used to be, but you can still probably lower it slightly more. And the damage in a post-Season 9 world, the 25 per shot, so 75 per round, is not as bad as it used to be. However, if we ever return to pre-Season 9 health pools, which is very unlikely, but let's roll with it, it's gonna be like way more noticeable. But I think the only major complaint is that you can reduce it to 30 and maybe like slightly lower the projectile size, but it's probably okay. Like, yeah. Or like here. Because, actually no, I'm gonna put it back in fair, because Bap also needs to heal. Which obviously is a different type of his weapon, it's his secondary fire that he needs to heal. But it at least, you know, you can't really fire and heal at the same time. You need to basically, no weave, but like you gotta, if you want to like maximize the efficiency, you do need to like kind of make it work, which is pretty difficult, so I don't blame him. It can like be difficult, so it's not as bad in reality. Bastion grenade is like easy fair. It's an ability on an 8-second cooldown, which is pretty long. It does 115 damage on impact, and that's only if you land it on someone. If you aren't, it's just 50 damage max from the explosion, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and you can also use it for movement, so you don't just use it for the damage, so it gives it more nuance, which is already higher on the list. So even within the context of Bastion's kit, it's completely fine. Lead home explosives. Tank form, basically. This is his major perk, his tank form. Okay, it is an ability on a 12-second cooldown. It has a duration of 6 seconds. It does 140 on impact. So only you gotta actually land a direct hit for the damage to be that high. But if you don't land it, it's 90. Just 90 explosion damage. Yeah, here. The fire rate is kind of slow as well. Yeah, I forgot to talk about fire rate. Fire rate is also like an important one. And projectile speed is somewhat fast, but not the worst. And projectile size is okay. Is pretty large, but okay. You can two-shot it, but because of how Bastion is overall as a fucking character, it actually is an improvement. Because, you know, regular turret form, you're just kind of using it on the tank, usually. Obviously, you can use it on other characters too, but it kind of gets disproportionate value on the tank unless it's an armor tank, etc. And this basically opens up the threat to squishies more. So I will actually place it very highly, also because it's an ability and stuff like that, which falls under what I consider fair or more ideal as burst damage. Brig that's her normal rocket flail, her left click. I mean, it's a fucking melee weapon. Like, yeah, easy fare. Like, it has a severe range limit. The burst isn't even that high, it's 45 damage, so it barely counts. And yeah, like, obviously, I'm kind of like ignoring the entire context of the kit here, but yeah. Also, speaking of melee, like, quick melee also falls in this category, technically, because it does 40 damage, but it's fucking melee, bro. Like, obviously, it's, like, fine. There's nothing wrong with quick melee as an ability. Yeah. So, Shield Bash, same story. 50 damage, which is not that much, but, like, still a decent amount. It is 5 seconds. It is an ability on a 5-second cooldown, and plus you need your shield to not be dead to use it, which is, you know, not very difficult, but it is something you need to keep in mind. And it's not just used for the damage, so it's like already more nuanced of an ability. So easy fare. Whip shot. No, okay, this is whip shot, and this is the major perk Whiplash. Whip shot is kind of the same. I'll argue it's 80 damage on a 4-second cooldown. However, it's pretty slow projectile. It's not a very, very, very restrictive range limit, but the range limit is there. You will usually. Oh no, it's 70 damage. Sorry, not 80. My bad. Yeah, it's 80 meters per second. That's like, it's the same speed as like Ramattra's primary. It's not very fast. It's like very reactable. It's up to 20 meters, so it has a range limit. 20 is actually pretty restricted, never mind. So yeah, that's fair. It does knock back enemies, but it's fine. Nothing wrong with Whip. Same with Whiplash is the same story. Despite being a very, very large amount of extra damage, you will do 130. You will only be able to get it if you slam someone into a wall. And that's not very consistent. Like, in very open maps, you'll almost never get it. On more closed maps, or maps with a lot of, like, corners and shit like that, I don't know. Casts. Hot take. This is probably gonna make a lot of people mad. I think Cass's implementation of burst damage is the fairest out of all the heroes that have. Out of all the non-shotgun heroes that have high burst. I would say that it is lower than it used to be beforehand, but let's look at my reasoning. Range. Very range limit. Not as range limited as it used to be when it was 20-30 meters. It's now 25 to 35 meters, but it's still relatively range limited in comparison to like Ashe or, I don't know, Widow, Freja, etc. By the way, Fan the Hammer, I will look at Fan the Hammer as well, no worries guys. I will look at Fan the Hammer. primary fire is 6 ammo. Very, very limiting amount of ammo. You will need to think about when to use it. Obviously, roll reloads it, but it's not very consistent. Like, no, it's not consistent. You just don't always use it for the reload because it's more complicated than that. So yeah, overall, I would say his primary fire is a fair implementation. However, by the way, I know this is the perk, but I mean Fan the Hammer here. This is Fan the Hammer, not the perk, not Quick Draw. This is just Fan the Hammer. Fan the Hammer is here. Similar logic to primary, but to a different extent. It's even more range limited than his normal primary. Like, it does have the same fall off, but the spread is so high, it leads to basically very inconsistent value at anything that isn't in your face. Yeah, it still has the lower 20 to 30 meters. It does, but the big problem with Fan the Hammer is the fact that it is a tank busting tool. It is literally a tank busting tool, and it is kind of enabled that way because of the 50 damage. The 50 damage isn't technically that big of a problem anymore because Cass is 250 now, so him being in front of the tank is already more dangerous. But I personally, again, this is more of a design opinion. I think Cass being the 275 shorter range is fine. And the problem with the Fan the Hammer posed when he was 275 was because of the amount of damage and not necessarily because of the design itself. I feel like they do need to maybe try to maybe reduce the spread more, but maybe reduce the damage. So maybe you have more of an incentive to use it on squishies and not tanks. Obviously, that's without consideration of using flashbang combo. So flashbang, okay. Flashbang you don't really use that much for the damage. I mean, you could definitely use it for the damage on, like, I don't know, a tracer or something, but you kind of mostly use it for the hinder. But regardless, I will still look at the burst damage specifically. It is an ability, first of all, so it's already better for me. It is on a 12-second cooldown, which is very long. It's only 75 damage too, which is not that high. And it's range limited. It has a maximum range of 10 meters because it's being thrown for 7 meters, then has a 3-meter explosion radius. So that basically puts it here. Again, this is purely the damage part of it, not the entire hinder and stuff like that, just purely at the damage of the hinder and the way it's implemented. Obviously, I can't fully ignore hinder, but I will still look at it, mostly focus on the damage. Bang Bang, that's the new minor perk now. This is mostly used for the hinder, so I'm actually going to be a little careful. Even like this is used even more for the hinder than regular flashbang. So I'm going to be slightly careful with how I grade it, like more than normal flashbang. So it does less burst damage. It is 75, it does 90, sorry, because it's reduced from 75 per to 45 per, and it's even double. So it's even quote-unquote less consistent to hit the double grenade. It's technically not correct, but on paper, obviously, at least it's like that. However, it comes with the cost of being double hinder. It doesn't change any breakpoints really with Cass as well. So yeah, I'm just gonna put it here. I'm gonna put it here alongside flashbang, but take this place with a grain of salt because obviously you don't use Bang Bang for the damage, really. You use it for the CC. So obviously the lower damage is gonna matter less. And especially since it's now a minor perk with even lower damage. When it was higher damage as a major perk, it was slightly a problem. Silver Bullet. Silver Bullet is does replace Fan the Hammer. So it replaces from a secondary fire to an ability that is bound to it. So it has 8-second cooldowns. It is refresh to when you use Deadeye and roll. but you're not always going to do that. And it does 70 impact and 70 bleed, so it does basically double damage, and it has the same fall off right now as regular Peacekeeper. And so because it's on an 8-second cooldown, and you can use it with some combos, I will actually put it here. And also because it's a major perk, but you can also make a very strong argument about being here, that maybe the damage is too high, which is honestly kind of fair, but so you can put it here if you want, but I'm going to put it like the very, very, very bottom of fair. Okay, micro missiles, I'm considering burst damage, because even though, yes, 1 point is not that, like 1 point is not 50, I will consider it, I will give it the shotgun logic and say that the entire thing, like at once, does the 150, and it is also because of the faster fire rate. I will consider it burst damage for the sake of consistency. Really, it's an ability, so it's on a 7-second cooldown, so it's it's short-ish, but it's not too short. It does 153 damage if you land all of the missiles, but the projectile is pretty slow. It's like 50 meters per second ish. Yeah, the projectile is kind of large, but not the end of the world. And yeah, it's not like it's only like 18 rockets in total. So you can maybe argue that the damage is too high in the way D.Va works, which is like fair-ish, but is that a problem with micro missiles by themselves, or is it a problem with D.Va as a hero? Doomfist is a projectile shotgun that does 55 damage, so barely qualify. It only has 4 ammo, so very, very low amount of ammo. And you know, because it's a shotgun, it has a very harsh fall off. So yeah, standard fare here. Like it's pellets. Yeah. I don't think I need to explain much here. This is Rocket Punch, and this is empowered, by the way. So right now I'm just going to talk about normal punch. Normal punch. Yeah, normal punch is complicated. Even more than empowered. Empowered is very easy to shit on. It can do as little as 25 damage, or as much as 115. It depends on how much you can, knock people to walls, if you charge it fully, etc. It's a very complicated, it's a very, complex ability. It is on a 4-second cooldown, so it's a very short cooldown. However, it is also often used for movement. So again, excluding Rocket Punch, I would argue it's like here. The damage was not properly tuned for Season 9. And by not properly tuned, I mean it was overtuned to Season 9. Empowered Punch is, yeah, it's definitely a form of damage in the game. Even though I'm a little inconsistent with whether I'm only like judging the burst or judging the entire ability. But Empowered Punch is just Rocket Punch, but better. And the way you get it is very cheesy. Like, you either get it by blocking enough damage with block, and if you do, you have it, and if you don't, you don't. And it basically gives you a one-shot. So, I would put it here, because I feel like, as a concept of Empowered Punch, it's fun. You could maybe try to make something work, but just the current implementation is just so bad. But as I said, I think it's because of how Punch currently is as an ability. I feel like you could make it work. Like, I don't think the extra knockback is that bad. I don't think the extra stun can be a little annoying and maybe a little too strong, but you can make it work. Basically, my point is, I think you can make it work. Just needs some change. A lot, like a pretty good amount of change of how you get it and what happens when you do get it, Okay, 2 easy ones. Slam. It's an ability. It does do 2 things, but the damage and the mobility, a lot of mobility. It's an ability on a 6.5 second cooldown, so pretty relatively short for a movement ability, but you know, not the end of the world. It is range limited, it has 15 meters max, and yeah, it's 50 damage is negligible. I mean, it should probably be scaled with Season 9 health pulls, but that's another debate, but it's fair. Echo. Basically, Echo, this is her primary, so but it does 51 damage, so not barely qualifying as burst. It has 12 ammo, and that 51 damage is divided into 3 bullets, so with relatively large amount of spread, so you're not always going to get the 3 bullets, but it's not that inconsistent. 12 ammo is not very is pretty unforgiving, but because you only use it for damage, you can maybe make an argument that it's too high, but I'm not going to. I think it's fine. By the way, this here is a mistake. I should not have included her left click, but this is for later. Stickies. Oh yeah, stickies are stickies for sure. I feel like in 5v5 the stickies are slightly better implemented than in 6v6 because you have less of an incentive to use it on the tank. But okay, that's just an ability critique. Let's look at the requirements properly again. It's an ability, so that's already like, you know, better in the books. It is on a 6-second cooldown, so pretty short. It is divided into 6 bullets, which all do 30 damage each. The projectile size is pretty big, but the speed is kind of small, so I would actually put it like very, very high tuning. Mostly because the way that it's used with Beam, you can argue is slightly toxic, and since she has 225 HP, she's slightly less encouraged to like, you know, go all in. Especially since the buffs they gave to her was like later were nice, but like it's not the same as having 250. So yeah, but it's you can easily put it here. You just like, I'll argue this is slightly biased here. Okay, salvo, full salvo, her major perk. I would like to clarify. I don't think it's unfair. I just think it needs to be removed. Just a flat buff on the amount of stickies you get significantly increases the damage you do. It does 270 damage instead of 180, which is a lot of damage, even for tanks. And it doesn't even have, at least beforehand, it had the downside of like lower damage per sticky. That's not the case anymore. So yeah, it needs to be removed from the game. Again, unfair. Calling it unfair is probably not that just, but it needs to be removed from the game so badly that I have to put it here, even though the terminology here is a little iffy. So yeah, take aim. Okay, it's a projectile, secondary fire, no cooldown, no fall off. 130 damage on a direct hit, very, very fast projectile speed, relatively large projectile size, and even within the context of the hero, Illari is not very fair. I don't know if he can be salvaged, honestly. I feel like I might make it a separate category for unfair, but like I don't know what to do with. But I don't know. I feel like Freja in general is just a very, I don't want to say power crept by design character, but it kind of feels like it sometimes. I don't care that her win rates are trash, but like, come on, this is very strong. Like, period. And the fact that, like, you know, dash is reloaded, etc. It's yeah. Shurikens, 81 damage divided into 3. 24 ammo, but because it's 3 per, it's de facto 8 ammo. projectile speed is somewhat fast, but not super fast, like 75 meters per second. It's fine. Yeah. Same for dash. 8-second cooldown. By the way, this is excluding the perk. With the perk, it's complete nonsense. The new perk is complete nonsense. This is talking about normal Swift Strike without the new perk. Like 50 damage, 8-second cooldown. You get a reset when you get an elimination. But you also like can use it for movement. It's fine. Hanzo, 125 damage per bullet, so you can one-shot headshot. No fall-off. Charge time is very low, 0.72 seconds. His projectile speed is pretty fast. He's not as consistent as like Widow, but it's not fair. Like I'll argue any one shot coming from a primary or secondary fire is not fair. Like as design, I'll put it here honestly. Storm arrows, despite being an ability on an 8-second cooldown, which is like a pretty long cooldown, not as long as it used to be. It used to be 10, but yeah. No, it just does not work as an ability. Like, it just does not work. You either spam it on the tank and like basically delete them, or you just use it on squishes as well. It just deletes. It's like the auto delete button. You spamming 5 arrows, which are by the way faster than normal arrows. They used to be the same speed, but not anymore. It's 75 damage per. It has 5 arrows, so you do 375. But the delay between each arrow is very fucking low. Like zero. It's a quarter of a second delay between each fire, so it's very spammy. And it's usually, as I say, just a deleting tool. It's not like it doesn't really make you think more. Yeah. Sonic, should probably not even be on this tier list because you almost never use it for the damage. Then because you never use it for the damage, I will actually put it here, but it should probably not be on the tier list, but I included it for consistency. Scatter, same story as Storm Arrows, but worse. It's even worse. Not much comment. It's toxic. It's spammy. You just use it to delete things without like thinking about it. It's nostalgia bait. It should not be in the game. It got deleted for a reason. Hazard. It's fine. It's a shotgun. I will say I think the number is too high. I think that it should not be 7.5, but that's more of a balance thing. Fundamentally, it's fine. Same for wall. Same for leap. Leap, 6-second cooldown, mostly used for movement and damage. It's fine-ish. You can argue damage is too much, but not the end of the world. Wall, 12-second cooldown. It recently got nerfed, and rightfully so. Like, you can argue maybe in conjunction of all of them together can create a little bit of a toxic environment, but yeah. Illari. You need to charge it. It has a very long range, 30 to 50. It does have a lower headshot multiplier though, but the ammo management is non-existent. You have a lot of ammo for how slow the fire rate is. You have too much ammo. I would say Illari is not as strong as she used to be, but like it's okay-ish implementation, because again, supports are kind of different in that way because they have the extra duty of healing as well as damaging. So you will, by nature, you will see me ranking the support burst slightly higher than the DPS burst, just because support burst is like slightly less noticeable. But like, it's probably the same as Ashe, more or less. Maybe like reduce the ammo a little bit. Actually, I'll put it here. Maybe like reduce the ammo to like 8, maybe 10, to give it like a little bit of a sense of ammo management, and it's fine. Also, the projectile size is very massive, but like you can fix that as well. It's not very large change needed. Okay, Queen. People are gonna call me so biased here, but yeah. I mean, it's based on my previous criteria. I think it's obvious why. Very range limited. Ammo, not that much as it used to be 6, now it's 8. It has been 8 for over like 2 years. You can argue it's too high. It will be sad if they nerf it, but I will understand. It's a shotgun, it's a pellet weapon. It's, yeah, nothing much to say here. Carnage is a melee weapon, 105 damage. It has a wind up time of 1 second. It's very easily cancelable. Easily, if you have mobility, you can just dash away or whatever. This is like even fairer than her shotgun. Knife, and also it's an 8-second cooldown, or the more people you hit, the lower it is, but it has an ability as well, so you know it's better. Knife, same story, it's an ability on a 6-second cooldown, so relatively low cooldown, but 65 damage plus, you know, damage over time, but that's not what we grade here. Relatively slow, projectile size not as big as it used to be. Very easy to miss. A lot of counterplay as well. You can just like hide behind a corner, and if you do get here, you can still. It's fine. I'll take. It's fine. Okay, it's not fine. The thing with Junkrat's mines is like the fact that he can still get away with spamming them on like choke heavy maps. I feel like if they reduce basically make frag cannon perk just base kit, like reduce the ammo to 4, increase the projectile speed, and make them so it can only bounce like once or twice on the walls only before they explode, and if it lands on the floor it instantly explodes, then it's like would be here probably, or here, because unlike a certain other very similar hero, you are kind of vulnerable. Like you're way more vulnerable than this hero here. Despite doing this you do slightly more damage, obviously you can 2-tap, but I'll argue the context is slightly different. And again, that's talking about normal frag cannon, not really the mine combo. Which leads us to mines. Mines is it's here, I will say. I actually don't think mine combo should exist, even with 225 HP targets. I do think the knockback is very strong, but when it comes to the actual damage part of it, it's on a 7-second cooldown, it has 2 charges. You can use it for movement, and you can use it for knockback, for like knocking enemies away, and even the damage itself, it has a fall off, so not as consistent. However, just because of how strong you know what, fine. No, I'm putting it back here. I'm putting it here. Just because of how it can be used in conjunction with the combo, I'll just put it slightly lower, but it's fine-ish to an extent. I feel like Junkrat is mostly a symptom of like Overwatch 1 design syndrome. And if Junkrat was remade, was like an Overwatch 2 hero with the same kit, he would have been very different. Like he would have been like a lot better. Trap, honestly, critiquing the damage is like not fair, because Trap is just such a dumb ability. But like technically it's fair. Where I put it, like okay. I'm putting it here, but for the record, this ability should like completely get a rework. It just does not. It's just such a dumb ability. But again, at least by pure damage part, it's fine-ish. Like, but again, should not exist. It needs a rework. Juno. Slightly above Ana. She's a pellet hero, but one burst does do 70... Like, okay, it does like 72 healing, but like 80 damage or something like that. So yeah, it is a lot by its pellets, so... Yeah, but my main complaint with Juno's gun is the ammo. Just like with many support, it's very forgiving, the ammo count. But other than that, it's completely fine. I'll put it like higher here. Torpedoes... Yeah, it's fine. You can argue it's too strong. Like, damage and healing is too strong, but 10-second cooldown. It has a wind up. You can hide away. Like, it has a lot of counterplay, and it's on an ability that on a long cooldown, so not the end of the world. Kunai. Two problems, in my opinion, with Kunai. Okay. I will say that for a secondary fire, it should technically not be considered a fair ability because no range, very, very forgiving amount of ammo, very spammy. But I feel like it is, because of how slow the projectile is and just the way Kiriko is, it's salvageable, I think. It is salvageable. Like, I know I'm saying I'm like being very anti-sniper here, but like, I feel like acknowledging my bias here, and I feel like when it comes to these here, they are like, it's doable. Like, you can fix that. I feel like if you increase the recovery time, nerf the ammo like a lot to like 10, maybe 8, and keep the damage as is, honestly. I don't care. Normally, I'm like not the biggest fan of 2 taps. In most contexts, I'm not a fan. Some contexts, I'm like completely for them. But in that case, it's not the end of the world. She just needs a little bit of tuning. I think, and she's fine. Super Bloom. Like, this is Weaver's major perk. I think it's okay. The damage is just too high. Nerf the damage and you're fine. That's it. Let me check the exact damage amount, actually. Yeah, 40 damage over 2.5. Okay. Okay, so no, the 40 damage is fine. Sorry, I remembered 50 for some reason. The problem is just the Thorn Volley just having way too much ammo. And the window is slightly too forgiving, that's it. But it's fine. Very minor tuning. Lúcio, 88 damage per burst, it bites D.Va into 4, 22 per. Projectile pretty big, no fall off, but the way Lúcio is, he's kinda has to be in range. So I think it's fine. Boop he never really used for the damage. But at least the damage wise, it's like okay, but don't get me wrong. This is just the damage part of Boop. You can argue it's too high. I think it is too high in my opinion, but like, it needs to be 35. Overrun, 75 for normal, 150 if you crit. So there's a crit. It's actually kind of difficult to crit. It's 5 seconds, which is very, very low. But because of how Mauga is, it's forgivable. It's very risky to use it. Fight the CC immunity. I'll put it here. If Mauga ever gets a rework where like the rest of his kit isn't trash, you can lower it to here, or like here. But at least in the way Mauga is right now, it's fine. Mei's right click, so icicles, specifically icicles. Mei's normally a very close range hero, but without right click, she's very short range, so it gives her like better counterplay in longer ranges. Ammo, there's a small cast time, it's very low, so it's borderline meaningless. There's a headshot body shot combo, which normally would be a little toxic, but within Mei's kit context, it's actually okay, because it allows her to not just focus the tank 24/7. Ammo count is fair-ish. It's 14 ammo in practice when you use when you use it, so ammo slightly too high. I think 120 should be the better number and just increase the DPS on primary, but that's something else, so I'll put it here. Just maybe nerf the ammo slightly and it's easy fare. Spear. 7-second cooldown. Divided into impact and wall impact. It does stun, which can be toxic, but that's not what we're grading. So it's fine. Charge javelin. That's the wrong one. It's fine. It's okay, I guess. Like, it does knock you further, so you're more likely to get the extra damage, but it's fine. Pharah. So yeah, I kind of already spoiled Pharah beforehand. She's here. I will give credit to the devs, and she does have 6 ammo, which is very low. But 120 damage with no fall off, where you can just be in the air 24/7. Okay, not 24/7, but where you can be in the air or like keep a very large amount of distance does feel cheesy, very cheesy. Even within the Pharah rework, after the Pharah rework, I still feel like she needs some tuning. I originally thought of maybe adding a range limit to her rockets and then like giga buff her dash and give her 250, but I don't know if it will actually work. I feel like they need to just also make sure you can't 2-tap with the fucking Mercy Pocket. But yeah, that's like, again, something different, so I'll just put it here. It's salvageable, but it needs some work. Sky Spy, which is Pharah's new major. I think it's okay. It does give you a 2-shot, but like you gotta time it with Conk, and Conk is like an 8-second cooldown, which by the way only does 30 damage, so I'm not including it in this list, but even though it's technically burst, but like... So yeah, I'm gonna put it like here, yeah, because you need to like time it with Conk and then do a direct hit. Which, so yeah. Oh yeah, also direct hit. Like the projectile size is massive, by the way. It's very big, like same for Junkrat. I feel like if they reduce the size on both of them, increase like... Pharah does not need the speed increase, but like she does need a lower projectile in my opinion. Like you can probably like make it work. But yeah, sorry. Small side note here. Pummel is fine. It's melee. It's like Nemesis form, yeah, it's Nemesis form, but at least Pummel itself is not the problem. Vengeful Vortex was problematic until they removed the interruption, the momentum stop, but after they removed it, it's fine. I still think the 50 damage should probably not exist, and they just integrate the function to base kit, but it's fine. Reaper is fine. Ish. Like, you can maybe argue, yeah, he's too strong right now, but it's a shotgun weapon. 8 ammo is pretty not unforgiving. It's very, 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 very range limited. Like 10 to 20 meters fall off is the lowest in the game alongside Tracer and D.Va. Yeah, that's fine. Like, if you want to make Reaper, especially in 5v5 by the way, like, yeah, Reaper is still half a tank buster, but like, he's kind of salvageable, but the problem is not the shotguns, really. Like, it's fine. Dark Trigger's same story. It's longer ranged, but on a 4-second cooldown, and it consumes 2 ammo. It's also very fun to use. It's fine. I'll put it higher than normal shotguns, honestly. Hammer. Hammer is fine. You can argue damage too high, maybe Ryan is too survivable, but at least Hammer by itself is fine. Same for Firestrike. Firestrike is even better implemented than Hammer. It's 6-second cooldown, 2 charges. I do think the 2 shots will return, ironically, because of like how Rein is. Like, within the context of Rein's kit, it makes sense to have it back, but like... yeah. It's fine. I feel like the problem with Rein isn't really these 2 abilities, it's just like... in general, the way he is in 5v5, like, you gotta find a way to make him work better as a solo tank, while not being like a giant, like, fucking 700 HP monster with 300 armor and 1500 HP shield. You know? Charge as well. Charge is the only fair one-shot in the game that isn't an ultimate, in my opinion. But pin is fine. The cooldown is maybe too short, you can argue, but it can also be used for movement, so it has a little bit of nuance. It is very risky to use, very easy to cancel. It's fine. Like, the damage is very high, but I think it's fine the way that it is right now. Damage-wise, it's not too high or too low. Hog, okay. I'm gonna talk about secondary and primary is one thing, even though, like, you know, Hog Hero Revert, etc. Let me just put you away, it doesn't matter. I don't know. The problem with Hog isn't really like the gun, it's how you use your gun with your kit. So like, technically, like, but on paper it's here. In practice, it's like here. So like, where do I do it? Like, you know? Because the problem is like, you know, hook. Like, the way you use hook. Like, the whole one-shot mechanic of Hog is just like fucking trash. But again, is it the shotgun's fault? Not really. Well, it definitely does not help the issue, but at least by my criteria of how you implement burst damage, it should not be a problem. Like, even right click, like, so yeah, like, I don't know. I think it's fine. Stigma is fine. 110, but it's very, very slow projectiles. They are relatively difficult to aim. They do bounce, but it's fine. I will say it's like, the only complaint is maybe the projectile size is too big, but it's fine. Rock. I'm considering whether I should consider one-shotting 225 without melee is fine. It's on a 10-second cooldown. It's a very large projectile, but it's a very slow projectile. It does stun. 120 is a lot. But as I say, you cannot one-shot combo 250, but you can 225. But is it okay? Okay, let's say I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna say no, it's not okay, but if you do think it's okay, which is a fair opinion, I don't think it's that serious, but it's just a minor thing I can worry about, you can put it here. But just for argument's sake, I'll put it here, despite being an ability on a 10-second cooldown, etc. It technically is not the end of the world, but Soj Rail. Hot take. It's a lot fairer than Freja. I normally I would put it here, but I can't bring myself to put this and this in the same tier, because this is completely different. Like, with Sojourn, you need to charge it. With Freja, you press right click and that's it. I mean, this is projectile, this is hit scan, but I can't in good faith put Freja right click and Sojourn right click in the same tier. So I'll put it here. I do think the devs need to figure out whether... I personally don't think she should be 120 burst, it should be 100 and just gigabuff whatever other part of the kit they need. I think she was actually okay power-wise when it was 100, like the very, very last patch when it was 100 I think was fine. Yeah. I think they need to mess up with recovery time more. They probably need to buff her primary slightly more to compensate. Maybe her slide, maybe bring that to 50, but right now I just don't like the way Sojourn is right now. 225 did literally jack shit, as I thought as well. I knew it would probably do nothing, but yeah. You, despite being an ult, I gotta mention you. You're complete nonsense. This is a complete nonsense. You should not be able to one-shot body shot 225 HP. Or even 250, or even headshot 250, even if it's an ult. I don't think it's fair. Like, you can disagree with me on this, I will accept it, but like... I mean, this is salvageable if you nerf Rail's like base damage to like 100, then this would not be bad. But at least the way it is right now, I can't in good faith, at least with my subjective opinions on this perk, I can't in good faith put it in a fair category. Helix is fair. 6-second cooldown, projectile and direct impact 126. It's fine. It's fine. Sombra virus normally does not qualify, but when you hack someone, it does way beyond the 40 damage. It does 70 when you hack someone. So therefore I count it, because there are a lot of times where you do hack virus. So I would actually put it here. It started as 10 damage with 100 DOT, then it became 2090, then 3575, which is what we have today. I think they should bring it back to 2090 or 10100 or 15100 to make it better with Season 9 health pools, but that's it. That's the only change I would say about virus. Or just rework it with opportunists, but that's something else. Secondary fire Symmetra. I ironically want secondary fire 2-shot back, but it needs to come with the cost of a higher ammo cost and a smaller projectile size. However, right now it doesn't do that. It's also a relatively long charge time. The projectile speed is somewhat fast, but not too fast. 100 damage, so you can't 2-tap shit with it. Even Widow, you can't do it anymore. But because the way Symmetra is right now, it's even less relevant. Like, obviously you still get value, but I'll put it here. I'll put it here, but it's actually here. Like, you know, fine. I'll put it here. I think it needs some work. I'm not happy with how it is right now. So yeah. Torb. This is both primary and secondary. I'm combining the two for simplicity's sake. Ammo, not really need to think about it. He has 18 ammo, which is a lot. Projectile speed is pretty fast, but not super fast. It's very tank busty, both primary and secondary fire, I would say. Yeah. I think secondary fire, the shotgun, just needs like an ammo cost increase back to 3, like in Overwatch 1. And like reduce the ammo to like 12 or 15 with Torb, and I think it's fine. It's more or less fine. Obviously Torb is a very problematically designed hero, but overall it's fine. Same for Forge Hammer, it's fucking melee weapon. Venture. I don't know, I mean, this shorter range, so it's slightly fairer fundamentally, but the projectile size is massive. The ammo is very relatively high. It's 8 ammo, which, yeah, it's low. It's still technically very low by standards, but I feel like for the Venture specifically, it's too high. The fire rate buff is fucking ridiculous. They should. I don't know why they nerfed it. They buffed it in the first place. It's ridiculous. But yeah. And the range and the fucking perk is ridiculous. The double range is stupid. Even if it's on a 12-second cooldown, I'm not including it here, but like, just as a small conjecture, it's fucking stupid. Drill dash here. Fine. It's technically not super bursty because it does a lot of damage over time. It is on an 8-second cooldown, which you can use also for... I actually know it's here. The reason why I put it here is because I think the knockback is fucking ridiculous, but I should not grade the knockback, I should grade the damage. And the damage is at least okay. Like, I know even with the entire context of Venture's kit, it's kind of bad, but fine, I'll give it a pass. But Venture is, yeah, they are a questionable hero. Sometimes with the design, like very DPS Doom style. Not better implementation, obviously, but like, Burrow, same story. I think it's fine. It is a get out of jail free card. It is a slightly fair get out of jail free card, but like again, I'm judging the damage. I think the damage is okay-ish. Widow, okay. That's Widow a right click, by the way, for the people who are wondering. I don't think I need to explain. Thing is, you can't really fix it. You can't fix it. You can't salvage it. It's Widow with a secondary fire. There's only you can't do anything really. So yeah. Secondary fire Winston. This is the secondary fire again. Secondary, not primary. Has a relatively long charge time. Has a range limit. It's a very long range limit, but it's a fair range limit. 40 meters. It has an pretty significant ammo cost, so you can only do 10 of them, so I think it's fine. Same for you. It's only 50 damage. You mostly use it to dive. It's not really, obviously the damage is very nice to have, but like the 60 damage is, yeah. Same for you, I would say. Actually, no. For you, I would say here, because you do need to charge it, but charging it is obviously pretty easy. So like, you can maybe slightly nerf it, but it's just like a design thing. It's not that bad at the end of the day. This is fine. For the same reason as secondary fire, it's okay. Pretty harmless. Pile driver, 8-second cooldown. Has a cast time, very cancelable. Yeah. Like, the knockback is very strong, the lockout is very strong, but the damage at least is fine. Oh yeah, I forgot to add hang time, 1 sec. But that's later. But grappling claw is fine. You need to charge it. It's on a cooldown. It's on a like 5-second cooldown, but it's only if you fireball, and you can only get the damage if you fireball. It's very cancelable. It's fine. Hang time is... It's fine. No, actually it's here. For the same logic as the heavy landing, it does require a higher charge time, so you like... It's more reactable and more like counterplay, but the amount of damage it does is like very significant, like 150 is insane. But like again, it's in comparison to all of the other shit in the game, it's not the end of the world. So I'm just putting it here. So like, see this also as like mostly fair. Like any Seku might need some tuning. Wuyang. Ammo count is fucking ridiculous. 20 ammo is insane. I don't care that the charge takes double the ammo. It's crazy. Projectile flight is massive. Like, it's 0.42. It's bigger than a Pharah. It's like a lot larger than a Pharah rocket. I feel like if you reduce the ammo, reduce the projectile size, you can keep the damage probably. Maybe a slight nerf to the damage, but I don't know if you need the damage nerf. The charge time is very low, so I'm putting it like here. Very low, somewhat fair, but it needs it needs to be tuned. Wave, quick round, all of these. This is fine. It's the problem with it is not the damage, it's the healing amplification and the burst healing, but it's fine-ish. It's 12-second cooldown. It has multiple uses, so you don't just use it for the damage. So it's fine. Somewhat fair. It's just free value, but like, I don't know. I guess it's fun. Again, it's not the end of the world-ish in comparison to a lot of the other shit in the game, but like, I don't like it that much. I feel like he already has a lot of burst. I don't think he needed more. The wave perk is fine. This is the perk that basically turns around. It does more damage. It's fine. Zarya secondary. Kind of a range limit. Very large ammo cost. Very slow projectile. You use it for movement as well. Textbook definition of fine. Zen Orb. These are regular. This is both primary and secondary. Ammo is slightly overtuned. I feel like 25 is too much. It should be like 20. Other than that, projectile speed is not very. It's kind of slow. It's like kunais. It's fine. Charge time is reasonable and very visible to the player. Projectile size, you can argue, is maybe slightly too large, but it's fine. By the way, this is the normal one, and this is the perk that gives you 6-1. Snap kick, extra damage is okay, but the problem with snap kick, you can argue, is like the knockback, not really the damage. And even then, I think in 5v5, snap kick is fine. The problem with I don't think snap kick should exist in 6v6, but that's 6v6. This is a 5v5 oriented tier list, so it doesn't matter. The Zen 6th Orb perk. 6th Orb breaks a breakpoint with 300 HP heroes, and you can even one-shot some tanks if you do all crits. I think, at least. I think it's okay. My only complaint is the faster charge time. That's my only complaint with this perk. Other than that, it's fine. Because it also like makes it 20% faster charge time, which I don't like. But that's it. Looks like we reached the end, but before I finish this video, I want to discuss the point of this tier list, which is to spark a discussion about the current state of burst damage in the game, and see how we can learn from the good in order to better rework the bad, and to also see how to better implement burst damage in future heroes. If you already reached this far, I thank you all for watching, and if you really enjoyed this video, make sure to like, and go check out my Twitch if you're interested to see more of me.